The Big Banks and Stroobs show coming at you once more. He's Big Banks. This is Stroobs. Let's roll.
Whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam. Whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam. Black Betty had a child. Bam-a-lam, the damn thing gone wild. Bam-a-lam, she said a word not of mine. Bam-a-lam, the damn thing gone blind. Bam-a-lam, I said, oh, Black Betty, bam-a-lam. Whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam.
In voting news and allegations of fraudulent voting, we have news today from the Texas Tribune regarding the possibility of ineligible voters actually casting votes. According to the Secretary of State in Texas, 95,000 names of registered voters are going to go to local election officials for further review. There's a possibility that upwards of anywhere between 55 and 60,000 of those registered voters were possibly people who cast votes as either green card holders on some sort of work authorization, some sort of TPS, or are absolutely like unlawful, illegal aliens, undocumented immigrants who might have voted in Texas elections. Was President Trump going in the right direction when he assembled a action team to kind of investigate the possibility of unlawful voting? Or was he onto something, or was he still off base? A lot of people were giving him a hell of a lot of critique on that.
Well, you know, I think he was on to something. I mean, it just only made sense. When you go to most states, D.C., New York, wherever, when you get a driver's license, they automatically register your vote.
Things that happened under the Clinton administration, the Motor Voter Acts, and all sorts of other kind of systems of day of registration.
Exactly.
Not a whole lot of cross checks being done. Not a whole lot of citizenship checks being done. People assembling lists of signatures who were actually feeding people wrong information. You're a green card holder, you are not a citizen yet, it's okay. You can vote in this election, you can vote in that election. Just, you know, I think there's a lot of misinformation being delved out to people, and others know they're not supposed to do it. I don't think a lot of people willingly go to the polls and cast a vote if they absolutely have been told, no, you're not supposed to do that unless you actually were born in the United States or have citizenship papers in hand.
I think this is the problem, because when you cast a vote, knowing that you're just supposed to cast a vote, it changed the nature of how our elections go. You know, I'm not trying to say that the person that they cast a vote for or against will or will not help their cause, but it moves the mile marker a little bit further to the left or to the right in the situation that it's supposed to be. So hypothetically, say if you had a candidate who's for immigration, or a candidate was against immigration.
It takes those policy issues, and it certainly sways them. It certainly kind of it does move that viewpoint.
Yeah, so
it slants that viewpoint in a certain way, of course.
So that's why it's important for people who are not citizens not to vote, because even though you're here and you feel like you've been here for a long period of time and you feel like you should have the right to have a say into our government, and not until you go through the
citizenship means something. It still does mean something. There are not many aspects of living in this country, taking part in the American way, that are exclusively for U.S. citizens. Holding a federal job is one, serving on a jury is another, but actually taking part in the process, the electoral process, is one area that is always and always limited to strictly United States citizens. I think that's sort of being eroded in a lot of ways when cities like Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco try to let people know that they can
just
vote in whatever local elections for school board. There are certainly very few aspects, very few elements about American life that separate the citizen from all others. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Citizenship should mean something. There should be some privilege, some benefit to being a United States citizen that kind of separates us from those who are foreign. And I don't think anything's ethnocentric or anything is jingoistic about saying that, but that is pretty much the truth. So we will follow the happenings in Texas. The media scoffed. The media certainly came out and bashed what the Trump administration had to say about unlawful voting. And
well, I just want to say he's just trying to find the truth. And I think when we're out here searching for the truth nowadays, nobody want to see it. They just want to keep the blinders on when it comes to certain information. Immigration voting, or people who vote illegally, is one of them.
I don't think he did himself any favors when he started throwing numbers out there. One of my big critiques when President Trump was out there throwing out these knowingly inflated numbers, I was pretty critical of that. I mean, you can talk about unlawful voting as an issue without giving these absurd estimates that you're pulling out of your ass. So that was one thing I was highly critical of him for in the first year of his presidency back in 2017. We'll certainly follow that story, and if you think Texas is a strong state, there are cross checks and other checks that are happening in Texas that are not happening in places like California and places like Florida that allow people to vote willy-nilly. And so that's if it's happening in Texas, you know damn well that it's happening in a place like California. I think Los Angeles was one of those other stories where Judicial Watch and some other bodies, nonprofit bodies, were looking for unlawful voters. I think they looked at the rolls, they looked at the voter rosters, and too many names came up. You have this many people on your voter rolls, you don't even have that many people in your county. So imagine that. We'll be with you on that story, and if there's any breaking news on that front, we'll follow up with you folks.
Always ready, bam-a-lam, whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam, whoa, Black Betty, bam-a-lam.